This is part 2 of my video on the things that scared me as a kid. I was originally going to make a single video, but then things got a bit longer than I anticipated, so I split the video into parts. But be warned that this video will still be quite long, so grab some popcorn, settle down, and let's get straight into the scares. Back in the mid-2010s, online horror wasn't like what it is today. There were no backrooms, there was no Huggy Wuggy, there was no analog horror, or at least not like it is now. We didn't have any Mandela catalogs or Walton files, no. Instead, we had creepypastas. Back when I was a kid, like many other kids, I would watch videos about creepypastas when I probably shouldn't have. Sonic.exe, Smile Dog, Jeff the Killer, all the works. And a whole lot of lost episodes too. I remember watching a video that was a list of top 10 creepypastas. There was one on there that disturbed me quite a bit called SpongeBob Hope is Lost. I know it sounds silly, but just bear with me. It was written from the perspective of a guy named Nicholas who worked as an intern for Nickelodeon, when have we heard this before, where he finds an unseen SpongeBob episode on a computer and decides to watch it. He becomes progressively more and more disturbed by scenes of cartoon characters being hyper-realistically murdered or something, and then it revealed that SpongeBob is the devil's spawn? I don't know. But what mainly scared me was this part. After the episode ends, the protag blacks out. His friend Tina wakes him up, concerned for him. Then, get this, he goes insane from watching the episode and becomes convinced that he was sent to end the world and destroy humanity, so he kills Tina. The story ends with him bragging about how he's going to start going on killing sprees and ooh, the reader might be next! To me as a kid, it was really disturbing, but after reading the pasta in its entirety now that I'm grown up, it's actually so awful it's kind of funny, with lines such as "suffer fat one," and how desperately hard the story tries to be edgy by just throwing graphic descriptions of violence with no rhyme or reason. To demonstrate, I will now dramatically read a small excerpt from the story. Here goes. SpongeBob then slowly turned, as if he expected this. And as he slowly turned, his face slowly came into view. His eyes, they changed. They no longer seemed to be his normal, happy, joyful-looking eyes. They were blood-red and full of malice, hate, and anger. One would expect this face from a demon. Hell, even the devil himself would find this look fitting. I, myself, now slowly began to weep, with no end to this horror in sight. Yeah, just a silly edge fest, probably written by a kid. Another popular creepypasta that freaked out young me was the infamous Lavender Town syndrome. This tale said that frequencies of binaural beats in the original Lavender Town music from the Japanese release of Pokemon Red and Blue, or Red and Green, caused kids to go insane and off themselves in various ways, to the point that it apparently even raised the death rate for that demographic as a whole. While it is true that some people reported headaches due to how high-pitched the song can get, there is no evidence anyone actually died as a result of the song. And you wouldn't be able to get hurt by listening to it on YouTube either, because their compression apparently filters stuff like that out. It seems that the idea of frequencies messing with your ears and mind was quite scary to younger me, because I also remember being too scared to watch the Wyoming incident video in full, because I watched a reading of that story that said that it contained frequencies that caused headaches, vomiting, and, get this, caused people's eyeballs to vibrate, which caused them to hallucinate. I watched it in full for the first time not long ago, and surprise, surprise, nothing happened. It's a bit eerie, but without the backstory, it's not really that scary. And finally, of all the creepypastas of the 2010s, who could ever forget Herobrine? I loved Minecraft as a kid, and I still do. And when I wanted a quick scare back in 2014, I would go on my Android tablet and search Minecraft Scary Story on YouTube, and find plenty of sightings, animations, and machinimas involving him and others like Null and Entity 303. In many of the animations, or at least the ones I wasn't too scared to watch, Herobrine was portrayed as a Dark Lord type figure who ruled the hostile mobs with an iron fist. In others, he was a ghostly figure who stalked and tormented the players for unknown reasons. Regardless, kid me was pretty scared of him. Now that I think of it, I don't really get why I was so scared of him when the most he could do was just grief your world a bit. And I mean, he's just normal Steve, but with a few pixels changed. Come on now. One of my least proud childhood moments is the fact that I used to unironically think Herobrine was real and there was a small chance he would be in your world. I mean, when you're a somewhat gullible kid whose first instinct is to assume the best in people and you have people making sightings that they swear up and down are 100% real, it's not gonna end well. Now the good news about all this is that I grew out of most of these fears in the end. Through the Mute Trolls, Herobrine sighting debunking videos, and Leather Ice Cream's Sorter riff, I soon realised that a lot of Herobrine sightings are glaringly fake and most of the classic creepypastas are actually quite mid when you actually analyse them. On a similar note to the creepypastas, back in like 2016 and 2017 there was this now deleted channel called Paranormal America, which was an alternate channel owned by this guy called What Shall We Do Next, who is still around, that focused on these scary stories. I don't know if they were made up by the guy or just stuff he found online, most likely the latter. There was one video of his that I saw when I was like 12 called something like "Never Have This Dream," where he was talking about this Japanese horror story or urban legend where many people claimed to have had this dream, where they were at this village where there were all dead bodies strewn on the floor. Then some women in traditional dress came over on stilts and gave some stilts to the hapless dreamers, and then told them that in the village, anyone who falls over dies. Then one of the women tries to walk away, only to fall over and die horribly, and then it's implied that all of the dead bodies are the others who have had the dream but fell over before they could wake up. Again, I'm not sure if it's an actual urban legend or just some obscure post the guy cribbed off r/nosleep, because looking for it online has yielded no results. But after watching the video though, young me was now paranoid I would get the dream and die now that I'd heard the story. During a rather stressful night later that year in which some relatives had come over to visit, I randomly remembered it and the paranoia returned. While I've always been a night owl, that night I was so nervous I decided to try to stay awake until I forgot about the story, and it got to the point where I began to have auditory hallucinations. Before anyone worries, it wasn't anything too bad. I just began to hear what sounded like the visiting relatives talking downstairs, even though I knew there was no way that at all that they would have been up at that time. For the longest time, I couldn't find the guy's channel for the life of me because I wasn't searching the right stuff, which was weird, as I remembered him being somewhat popular at the time I saw the video. But earlier in the morning, at the time of writing this part of the script, I managed to search up a title related to a different video of his that I remembered to see if it would yield any results, and lo and behold, there he was. After a bit of scrolling on the channel, I found the video about the dangerous dream. We've talked a bit about regular Minecraft scary stories in this video, but now we need to talk about a chapter of its spin-off, Minecraft Story Mode. This was a spin-off made by the now defunct Telltale Games. You played as a character named Jesse who could be male or female depending on your choice, who went on some adventures with their friends. The game wasn't perfect by any means, and I never actually played the game, however I like watching Stampy's Let's Plays of it and poking fun at things in it. One evening when I was 12 years old, I decided to watch some of Stampy's playthroughs of it as there were some episodes I never got around to seeing when they first came out. The episode I decided to watch was episode 7, aka Access Denied. I chose that one as I didn't watch it when it first came out a year prior, but little did I know that I was making a mistake. In the episode, the protagonist is stuck in a corridor full of portals following the events of the previous 2 episodes and must find the correct one to get back home. They try everyone they can, but none of them are right. Frustrated, party member Petra, this chick, heads to a redstone portal because
redstone means smart people.
With the gang following her in the hopes that the portal will lead them to someone who can help them out. They land in a desert and follow a small path, and suddenly they encounter a zombie that, mysteriously, isn't burning up in the daylight and has a strange red object on the back of its head. Worryingly for the gang, it seems to be stronger than the hostile mobs they faced before. But hey, at least there isn't a ton of them! Oh, spoke too soon. The zombies don't attack, but instead lead the protagonist to a seemingly abandoned settlement, containing pens with other mobs bearing the same object on their heads, these objects seemingly making the entities move in perfect unison. After an encounter with a mysterious woman who seems to be on the run from something, they finally encounter a group of humans who have the strange objects on their heads. These people escort the protagonist to the main villain of the episode, a humongous, sentient redstone computer named Palmer. And this is the part where things got a bit much for 12-year-old me. Okay, I know. You're probably thinking, how is that thing so scary? It's just a face. But trust me, things are about to get much worse. So Palmer explains that it made the townsfolk useful with the head things, which are actually mind-controlling brain chips. Also, if you don't have an irrational fear of the word useful, you probably will once you've played or seen this episode because it's practically every other word this thing says. The chips go into the victims' brains through the backs of their skulls, or at least that's the implication 12-year-old me saw, merging their minds all together in a creepy digital hive mind and transforming them into robotic red-eyed slaves with no wills of their own. You know, for kids.
Using redstone chips, I have connected to the people of this town, has helped them be useful, coordinated. I have made their world perfect. Thanks to me, there is no wasted activity, no wasted thought. I am connected to them, and they are connected to me. A beautiful web of productivity and efficiency.
That voice. How'd they manage to make it both eerie and grating at the same time? Throughout this sequence, all 12-year-old me could think of was how messed up it seemed that the townsfolk's brains were being messed around with, their free will stolen on a neurological level. Ramble incoming, I know that mind-controlling brain chips are a sci-fi trope, and I had indeed seen media that featured them before, but it's in like kids' cartoons where it's all silly and played for laughs. One that comes to mind for me is an episode of the Monsters vs. Aliens TV series, yes, that was a thing, in which a robot called the Rulebot put chips on people that forced them to follow its orders. Those that were chipped by the Rulebot had an exaggerated zombie walk, and the rules they were meant to follow were silly and unreasonable. Also, technically the victims don't even lose control of their minds, only their bodies. As well as this, the Rulebot itself was quite goofy and affable, it was clearly meant to be funny, despite also being a threat. That episode never frightened me. The story mode episode, however, plays the trope deadly seriously, with the brainwashing victims being completely enslaved, moving in machine-like unison, and possessing bright red eyes and terrifying robotic voices.
Come on, Petra, snap out of it, it's me!
There is no Petra, only Mama.
Don't do this, Petra, please!
I know all your moves now, Jesse. Why even bother fighting?
Worse, it's implied that the chip people are conscious enough to know what's going on throughout the whole ordeal, yet not strong enough to fight back. And not only that, according to the writer of the game, they lived like this for 15 years until Jesse and the gang showed up. It wasn't until watching the playthrough of the Minecraft episode that I began to consider the horrifying implications the trope could hold. And personality-wise, although Power initially tries to paint itself as benevolent, it quickly becomes quite passive-aggressive when it realizes that it isn't getting its way. It also shows itself to not be above torture, using the threat of harming Petra to extract information from the rest of the team. But anyway, back to the episode. After a while of talking, Jesse and co let slip that other worlds exist, which gets far more excited as it had already enslaved almost everyone it could get its metaphorical hands on in that world and now wants to be able to help more people. This leads to unlucky party members Petra and Lucas being chipped themselves, so that the contents of their brains can be downloaded. And during this process their eyes twitch frenetically. What were they thinking putting this in a game for 12-year-olds? Anyway, then Jesse and party member Ira distract Palmer with a paradox and escape with the mysterious woman from earlier. I should have explained earlier, probably, but the woman's name is Harper and she's a member of an ancient group called the Old Builders who built the corridor of portals from the intro. She also built Palmer and he wants to assimilate her to maximize efficiency or some crap, and she can't afford to let it do that because then it would download the knowledge of portal creation from her brain and try to take over the entire Minecraft multiverse. Also, she and Ivor 100% had the hots for each other and you can't change my mind. Wait, no, I'm getting distracted. Moving on. Although the rogue Macintosh is ultimately defeated, this is not without its hardships. Outside of Harper's secret lab, the gang are attacked by mind-controlled Lucas and Petra. Some water defenses are activated and you must choose to free one of them as water shorts out the mind-control chips and saves the victim. In the climax of the episode, Jesse enters the inside of Palmer and must remove its power source to finally deactivate it. But before they can finally do so, they're attacked by a mysterious figure. It's their other party member, the one they didn't unchip earlier. Through the party member, Palmer gives a speech about how Jesse will never defeat it, and it will enslave everyone they love, even going as far as to mention their pet that died a few episodes prior. The fact that they're staring into the camera half the time does not help.
Why keep trying, Jesse? You will only fail, just as you have failed to save Ruben. Just as you have failed to lead your friends back home. You will fail to defeat me, and Axel, Olivia, and everyone on your homeworld will soon be made useful.
It goes without saying, I had nightmares about this episode for months. and even rewatching footage of it just to make this video was really hard. I think something that added to its creepiness factor was how it all kind of just came out of left field. Episode 5 is about Skylar and the city, and episode 6 was a murder mystery that guest starred YouTubers. Why they thought, yes, let's make the next episode's villain be a terrifying AI hive mind is just... I don't know. My personal theory as to why the portal mechanic showed up in the last 4 episodes was because they ran out of ideas after the main plot arc concluded and needed an excuse to just use anything that came to mind. I don't know. Now that I'm older, I do think that the concept of just being a human duding around only to be deemed imperfect by a huge machine and then forcibly merge into his mind does have potential as a horror sci-fi concept, though I don't think it should be in a Minecraft game of all things. Definitely not something kids are gonna be playing. The game is rated 12+ over here because there's a few instances of the words like damn and shit. Kids who've probably heard worse in a secondary school playground apparently can't handle mild swearing, yet they could somehow handle all that? I don't know. This one is here less because it screwed me up and made me scared of silly things for ages, but more because it kind of stuck with me in a way that not much media like it had done so at the time. When I was 13, on the last day of school before the summer break began, there was no work left to do, so our teacher put on the Wallace and Gromit movie A Matter of Love and Death for us to watch. I was a bit surprised because I always remembered that series being childish. But, looking back, that wasn't really a good thing to say. Basically, in the story, Wallace befriends an ex-advert actress and falls in love with her, while there's a serial killer who's been murdering bakers loose in the neighborhood. One day, the lady accidentally leaves her purse behind, so Wallace sends Gromit to give it back to her. And this is when things get dark. Gromit heads into her room and finds that it contains multiple mannequins, all wearing the hats and aprons of the bakers and the woman who is actually the serial killer murdered, like a twisted trophy cabinet. He finds an album containing photos she took with the bakers, who she seduced before killing. And then, he comes to the horrifying realization that she wants to kill Wallace to raise the count from 12 to 13, the baker's dozen. And all the way through this, all I could think of was, since when was Wallace and Gromit this dark? After a while, I forgot about the scene, but I still remembered finding the movie disturbing. Then, sometime later, I was watching the movie with my parents to show them how dark it was, and the moment it came up, we were all like, okay, now I know why I found this movie dark. It's not much, but I decided to include it here because it kind of sticks out in my memory as something like that. This last part of the video will be about some small things that scared me, but didn't really have enough memories or information to warrant entire chapters. When I was young, I used to watch the original Blue's Clues a bit when it came on, but then I stopped. The reason was because the mailbox scared me. Probably because he jumped out suddenly. Even though he's just doing his job and he's actually quite cute, to me as a kid it was basically Five Nights at Freddy's. I also have vague memories of being scared of the show Brum, but again, I don't really know enough about why or remember any distinct memories that scared me to give it its own part of the video. Possibly because of how unpredictable he was, because he would go off and do bad things or something. In keeping with the Halloween theme, I also remember being scared of those decorations where from one angle it looks like a vintage photo, but then from another it looks like the subject of the photo is zombified or monstrous. One evening as I was coming home late from a club after school, I saw one of them in a window of a house I walked past and got scared. From then on I started insisting that we walked home from the other side of the street, but my parents just thought I was being difficult as kids sometimes are and didn't listen. So instead I would make sure to not look to the left when we passed what I thought was the house. These days, I don't think those decorations are that bad, although I have seen people argue that using real vintage photos for them is disrespectful to the people that they depict, as back in those days getting a picture taken was rare and expensive. Possibly a year before that, while I was walking home from the town with my dad near Halloween one year, I passed by a tall house which had these decorations in the window that were like zombie faces, and one of them had an eyeball dangling from its socket by its optic nerve. Kid me did not know that that was a thing that could potentially happen and was disturbed by it for a long time. Thank you to everyone who waited for this part to come out. I planned to finish it as soon as I came home from visiting my parents for Christmas, but then I got sidetracked by multiple things, including adjusting to a chaotic new class timetable and, unfortunately, losing my dog. But I persevered, and now, here we are. Thanks for watching, and let's hope that the rest of this new year will bring plenty of good times and surprises.